God says 8 minutes left. Heaven is watching God message today. God helps God's message now. The clock of heaven is ticking, not with the sound of seconds, but with the pulse of prophecy. God says 8 minutes left, and not to frighten you, but to wake you. These final moments are not about fear. They are about faith, decision, and divine alignment. Right now, heaven is not just watching over you. It is watching through you. Every thought you entertain, every feeling you allow to live within you, is being magnified into creation. You stand in a holy countdown where your next inner move will unlock or delay the miracle waiting to manifest. This is not about time running out in the physical realm. It's about the opportunity running out in your spiritual posture. God is not absent. God helps, but only when you recognize the help already within you. This moment, this very breath, is the message. It is the call to believe as if it's already done, because once the 8th minute passes, your choice becomes your world. So, awaken, chosen one, listen not with ears, but with spirit. The realm of heaven is pressing in. What will you believe when there's no time left to doubt? 8 minutes left. God is watching your faith now. Heaven waits for your decision the moment you hear 8 minutes left. Something within you stirs. It's not just a warning, it's a spiritual clock striking a decisive hour. Heaven is not watching with eyes like man. Heaven is perceiving your belief, your assumption, your inner conversation. The throne of God is not merely above. It is within you, watching how you carry the power you've been given. And now, in these final moments, the question is not whether God will move, but whether you will believe. The miracle has already been spoken. The outcome has already been conceived in the mind of God. But it waits. Heaven waits. Not because God is slow, but because your assumption is the gate. 8 minutes is not time passing on a wall clock. 8 minutes is symbolic of the final window where your decision becomes your destiny. Right now, your reality is in the hands of your faith. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? These are not idle matters. They are sacred forces shaping what happens next. Your circumstances may appear unchanged, but the real shift is inward. And the moment you change your inner state, the outer world begins to conform. You must understand, God helps those who move in belief, not in begging. The ones who walk as if it's already done are the ones who unlock the power of heaven. The prayer that pleases God is not the one filled with panic. It is the one filled with confidence. Not arrogance, but divine trust that what he whispered in your spirit will come to pass, not because of evidence, but because of alignment. In these final 8 minutes, God is watching, not to punish, but to reveal. To show you who you really are, to expose your inner truth. Will you step into the identity of the answered prayer, or will you stay stuck in the doubt that delays what is already yours? You are not waiting for a door to open. You are being told to walk as if the door is open already. You are not waiting for the sign. The sign is the urgency you feel right now. It is the fire stirring in your heart. It is the voice inside you saying, move now, because when God says now, he does not mean tomorrow. He means now in consciousness, now in vibration, now in decision. What you decide now is what you step into next. The help of God is not always dramatic. It is often disguised as a sudden shift in awareness. A change in how you see yourself. A new confidence that refuses to beg and chooses to claim. That is heaven's signal. When you start walking in it before it shows up, God shows out. Right now, this is not about what people see, it's about what heaven sees. And heaven sees your belief as your greatest offering. Your inner stance is your altar. What are you placing on it in these final minutes? Complaints or conviction, fear or faith, regret or rebirth? God is not moved by need, he is moved by faith. And faith is not loud, it is consistent, it is quiet power, it is stillness in chaos. It is saying, even now I believe. The number 8 is not random. It is the number of resurrection, of new beginnings, of divine completion. These 8 minutes are not about rushing, they are about rising. You are being called to rise into the version of yourself who already holds the promise. Stop waiting for signs that you are safe to believe. The safety is in the belief itself. If you want to see heaven move, then you must move within first. This is not the time to replay what hurt you. This is the time to remember who called you. God never gives a countdown unless something sacred is about to shift. You have cried, you have prayed, you have waited, but now God says, no more delay. Believe boldly, live as if it's done. And when you live as if it's done, something unseen begins to arrange everything around you. Angels respond to assumption. Miracles manifest through inner alignment. This moment is charged with divine power, but it must be activated through your trust. God has already made the way. What remains is your agreement. And your agreement is not with your emotions, it is with your destiny. Don't let your past pain become your present pattern. Break the cycle by becoming the version of you who already overcame. Stop asking when and start declaring now, because when your inner world shifts to now, your outer world cannot resist. God is not late. Heaven is not absent. The Spirit is present, waiting for your participation. The key is in your consciousness. These final minutes are a test, not of endurance, but of identity. Who do you believe you are when nothing seems to change? That belief is what writes your future, and if you can hold the vision in these final moments, you will walk into a reality that reflects it. Don't get distracted by the noise. Don't let fear become your narrator. Let the voice of God be louder than the voice of doubt. You're not too late. You're right on time for your shift, your healing, your breakthrough. But it begins in your assumption. Don't just pray, embody. Don't just hope, expect. Don't just wish, walk in it. These 8 minutes are about ownership, about stepping into the inheritance you've been promised, about refusing to be intimidated by how things look and choosing instead to respond to how God sees you. The truth is, you've already received it in the Spirit. Now the physical world is catching up. Heaven watches not to critique, but to co-create. God is looking to see, do you still believe when the clock ticks down to the wire? Because that's when real faith is revealed, not when it's easy, but when it's essential. This is your hour. This is your moment. You are not running out of time. You are rising into divine timing, so breathe. Stand up, shift, walk, speak, decide, reclaim the power that has always lived within you, and know this. When the 8th minute ends, a new world begins. Heaven isn't watching to judge, it's watching to release. And the moment you say yes inwardly, everything around you must obey. You have 8 minutes left. Make them eternal by choosing faith now. Heaven is watching through you. The test of your inner world has begun. You've been told that heaven is watching, but not in the way the world imagines. It's not looking down from some distant sky, sitting on golden clouds with thunderbolts in hand. No, heaven watches through you, through your thoughts, through your feelings, through your assumptions. The eyes of God are your eyes, and the gaze of heaven is your imagination. Every time you think a thought, you open a window for the divine to observe what you believe about yourself. You are not waiting for heaven to decide your fate. Heaven is waiting to reflect the version of reality you've already chosen internally. There is no separation. The moment you judge something outside you, you reveal what still governs inside you. This is the secret most people never understand. You are not merely observed by God. You are the expression of God, and heaven responds to your self-concept. The spiritual realm is not interested in your appearance, your public declarations, or your rehearsed prayers. It is tuned into your frequency, your inner atmosphere, and if that atmosphere is still controlled by doubt, worry, jealousy, or guilt, then no amount of outer action can disguise the inner reality. Heaven sees what you carry inside when you're alone. It hears the whispers of your inner dialogue more than the volume of your spoken words. Right now, in this very breath, heaven is not evaluating your worth. It is simply responding to your assumption. You are not being punished, you are being reflected. Your world is a mirror, and God's law is this. What you are conscious of being, you will experience, not what you want, not what you cry for, but what you are aware of being. If you are constantly telling yourself nothing ever changes, then heaven will make sure that becomes true in form. If you say, I always get overlooked, that will become law in your life, not because God is cruel, but because God is precise. Heaven has no favorites. It only has laws, and the law is clear, as within, so without. You are not under a curse. You are under a consciousness, and that consciousness is either elevating you or trapping you. So when we say heaven is watching, it's not a threat. It's a reality check. The divine is not angry at you. It is waiting on you to believe again, to shift, to align with the state of being that already contains what you've been praying for. Because nothing happens to you, it happens through you. Right now, if your life feels delayed, ask yourself this: what story am I repeating inside that keeps heaven locked in reflection instead of release? Are you praying for healing while still identifying as broken? Are you asking for love while secretly believing you're not worthy? Are you claiming success while living in the vibration of fear? These contradictions aren't hidden from heaven. They are the very signals heaven uses to craft your experience. The truth is, you can't fake your inner world. You can deceive others, even yourself for a time, but the law is unbreakable. What you entertain internally becomes form. It's not magic, it's design, it's divine order. God is not delaying your blessing. Your alignment is, and alignment isn't about pretending, it's about embodying. You have to become the version of you that has already received it, before it arrives. That is the mystery of faith. You must walk by what is unseen, not because it's imaginary, but because it's spiritual, and the spiritual always births the physical. Your outer world is nothing but your inner assumptions crystallized into time and space. That's why the journey of transformation is not out there, it's in here. It's when you sit in stillness, silence the noise, and start observing what you're really saying to yourself. Are you aligning with the truth that God is already within you? Or are you still searching for something outside to validate your worth? Because if you knew what heaven sees in you, you'd stop settling for so little. You wouldn't beg people to stay. You wouldn't chase validation. You wouldn't measure yourself against timelines or titles. You'd stand in the power of your I am, because that's where heaven is focused on what you declare yourself to be. Every I am not enough, every I am behind, every I am broken, these are the seeds you plant. And heaven, being obedient, waters them and gives them form. But when you dare to change the inner speech, when you say, I am healed, I am chosen, I am provided for, I am ready, you activate a new law. A new reflection, a new reality, not because you forced God's hand, but because you finally opened the gate within. Heaven is always watching, but more importantly, heaven is always reflecting. And what you're experiencing today is not a punishment. It is a photograph of your previous state of mind. You don't need more time. You need more inner agreement. You don't need more people. You need more personal power. You don't need another sign. You need a stronger stance. Heaven is not delayed. Heaven is waiting. Waiting for you to believe so fully, so completely, so unshakably, that the world has no choice but to echo your conviction. That's why you feel that urgency in your spirit. That's why you sense something shifting, even if nothing has visibly changed yet. Because heaven has seen your next level, and it's testing you to see if you're ready to become it. You can't fake vibration. You can't speak one thing and live another and expect results. This is a spiritual system, not a lottery. And God honors truth, not performance. So, chosen one, take inventory. What are you really believing today? What are you assuming about yourself, about your future, about your God? Because that assumption is the substance of your tomorrow. The walls aren't closing in on you. You are being shown your power. God is revealing the gap between your declarations and your consciousness, not to condemn you, but to elevate you. When heaven watches, it does so with love, but it also does so with precision. What you hold internally, you hold eternally. So release what doesn't serve you. Forgive what's been haunting you. Let go of the self-image that no longer fits the new reality you're calling in, because what you carry inside will always become your companion outside. This is not a punishment, it's a process, and the process is sacred. It will stretch you, it will strip you, it will expose every lie you've ever told yourself, but it will also prepare you to receive what you've only imagined until now. Because the moment you shift your inner world, heaven moves instantly. Your reality bends to match your being. The people change, the doors open, the atmosphere clears, not because God changed his mind, but because you finally changed your inner model of truth. You finally stopped looking for signs and became one. And heaven, seeing that you no longer need to be convinced, opens the floodgates of confirmation. So yes, heaven is watching, but not to control you, to co-create with you, to mirror your faith, to echo your identity. You are not powerless. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are becoming, and heaven sees it. Don't doubt now. Don't shrink now. Don't apologize for stepping into the version of you that aligns with God's original vision. You were never meant to stay small. You were meant to reflect glory. So rise, speak, declare, align, because when heaven watches, it watches to reward. It watches for truth. It watches for boldness. And right now, all of heaven is tuned into your next move. Make it count. God helps you the moment you believe it's already done. Stop waiting. Start becoming. You've cried long enough. You've waited, wondered, and begged for help, for a sign, for something to shift in your favor. But what if the help you're seeking isn't delayed? It's simply waiting for you to believe. God doesn't respond to panic. He responds to position. And your position is not in the begging or doubting. It's in your assumption. When you truly believe it's already done, the help of heaven rushes in, not later, not next week, not when it looks safe, now. That's the mystery and power of spiritual law. It's not activated by desperation, but by alignment. You must stop thinking help comes from the outside. The truth is, help starts the moment you shift within. Help shows up the instant you embody the version of yourself who no longer waits, but walks. Walks by faith, walks in identity, walks as if the thing you prayed for is already yours. That's when the heavens open. That's when resources find you, people show up, and doors swing wide that were once bolted shut. Not because you worked harder, but because you surrendered more deeply to the truth. God helps when you finally stop looking for proof and start becoming the proof. And becoming starts with what you accept as already true in spirit. If you can see it in the unseen, hold it in your mind, feel it in your heart, and walk in it without apology, then you will live it inevitably. The universe bends to match the conviction of your inner stance. You don't need to convince God to help you. He's already helped you. The question is, have you accepted it as done, or are you still hesitating, doubting, looking at circumstances for permission to believe? Because if you're waiting for signs, you've missed the message. The help was always waiting on your help in the form of bold belief, unwavering inner vision, and spiritual confidence. That's what moves mountains. That's what draws favor. That's what causes heaven to back you with full force, not because you earned it, but because you aligned with it. You accepted it before you received it. That's the pattern of divine manifestation. God doesn't help you get ready. God helps you when you act like you already are. You're not being tested to see if you can cry louder. You're being invited to become clearer, more convinced, more grounded in the truth of who He says you are. You're not weak, you've just been trained to wait for evidence, but faith requires that you move when nothing agrees with you yet, that you speak the promise when the room is silent, that you stand in vision while the world still looks void. That's where help shows up. At the intersection of invisible belief and courageous action, you must stop telling yourself you're not ready, stop rehearsing the story of lack, the identity of delay, the language of struggle. That version of you is not aligned with the help you're praying for. God helps when you step into the identity that can receive what you've asked for. Until you become it in consciousness, you'll keep feeling like help is just out of reach. But it's not. It's at the edge of your next declaration. The moment you stop talking like a victim and start thinking like a vessel, you'll feel a shift in the atmosphere because your help isn't out there. It's encoded in the version of you who believes deeply, speaks boldly, and lives like it's already yours. And when that shift happens within, the outer world has no choice but to mirror it. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be aligned. And alignment is not about effort, it's about identity. Are you being who God called, or are you being who fear shaped? Because fear will always make you wait. Fear will always suggest you're not ready. Fear will always create the illusion that God is far away. But help doesn't live in fear, it flows through faith. And faith is not blind. It sees beyond the senses. It sees the invisible, touches the intangible, and walks as if the unseen is more real than what can be touched. That's the faith that makes heaven move. That's the faith that calls help out of the ether and into your experience. But to walk in that kind of power, you must stop entertaining the opposite. You can't pray for abundance while speaking poverty. You can't ask for peace while meditating on problems. You can't say you believe while feeding doubt with your attention. God is not mocked. Your inner world always tells the truth. So if help seems delayed, go inward. Ask yourself, what am I really expecting? What am I really assuming? What am I repeatedly imagining in my mind when no one else is watching? That's where help begins, not in the next opportunity, but in the next thought. And if you dare to assume that God has already made a way, then your actions will shift. You'll stop shrinking. You'll stop second guessing. You'll stop waiting for the world to validate what heaven has already sealed in your spirit. You'll walk differently, speak differently, make decisions with divine confidence, not because you saw it happen, but because you knew it would, and that's when help overtakes you. That's when things begin to align so perfectly that even your enemies have to admit it was God. Because God doesn't help the hesitant, He helps the becoming, He helps the bold, He helps those who move without proof. This is the hour to stop playing small, to stop repeating the pattern of waiting, hoping, begging, and finally breaking down. No more breakdowns. This is your breakthrough, but you must be willing to move like it's already done. You must be willing to act like the healed version of you, to think like the promoted version, to walk like the anointed one you are. Heaven is not reacting to your timeline, it's responding to your transformation, and transformation doesn't take years. It takes a moment, a decision, a declaration that says, this is who I am now. That's where the help lies. That's where the miracles manifest. That's where the floodgates open. So if you want to feel heaven's hand, stop looking outside and start shifting inside. God helps the moment you align. He responds when you assume the position. Not the posture of a beggar, but the presence of a believer. And when you believe, truly believe, without needing confirmation, everything changes because you changed. You believed when no one else did. You stood when you had every reason to sit down. You declared the victory before you saw the evidence, and that is the exact moment heaven releases what has been waiting on your yes. So today, you are not waiting on God. God is waiting on your belief. Step into the finished work. Move as if it's settled. Speak as if it's signed, and know that help has already been sent. It's just waiting on the version of you who can receive it. That version is ready now, so rise, walk, declare, embody, because when you believe it's done, the help you need is already here. God's message is always now, but are you present enough to hear it? There is no delay in the voice of God. There is no hesitation in divine communication. The message of heaven is not scheduled. It is eternal, and it speaks only in one tense, now. God does not speak in future terms, because to the Spirit, everything is now. The question is never, when will God speak to me? The question is always, am I still enough to hear? The transmission of God is constant, but most people miss it because they're too busy looking ahead or behind. They're trapped in regret about what didn't happen or anxiety about what could happen, and so they miss the only place God is ever speaking, this moment. You can't hear heaven in the noise of fear. You can't catch the whisper of the Spirit when you're tuned to the frequency of worry. Divine guidance isn't hidden, it's simply quiet, and it requires your awareness, not your activity. You don't get a word from God by striving. You receive it by stilling yourself, not just your body, but your mind, your emotions, your constant mental rehearsals of failure. You have to become present enough to hear what's been present all along. God doesn't shout, He gently reveals, and revelation comes not when you chase it, but when you align with it. That's why so many miss divine timing. It's not because God didn't speak, but because they weren't inwardly available to hear it. You could be standing in the middle of a miracle and never know it because your mind is in a past season or a future fantasy. But God's miracles manifest in now, faith, not in wishful thinking. His message is encoded in this moment, right now, this breath, this silence, this exact second you're in, and if you're waiting for things to calm down around you to finally hear Him, you've misunderstood where He speaks. God speaks within, not around, and that voice has been speaking, even as you begged Him to speak. You were waiting for thunder, but He sent a whisper. You were asking for a sign, but He planted a stirring in your soul. You were looking for a flash of light, but He gave you a quiet knowing, a deep sense, a peace that defied explanation. The problem is never God's absence, it's our inattention. We look for Him in the dramatic, but He shows up in the still. We ask for writing on the wall, but He writes on the heart. That's why He says, be still and know. Stillness is not passivity, it is power. It is the posture of those who know that the kingdom of God is not coming from the outside, but is already within. The voice of God is not missing. It's muffled by the noise you're choosing to keep. The worry, the rehearsed betrayal, the what-ifs, the timelines, they are the static in the line. And until you release those distractions, you will think God is silent, when really your soul is too loud. His message is not on a delay, it's on a different dimension, and you only access it through presence. That means the most important spiritual discipline is not doing more, but becoming aware of what already is. Heaven is speaking to you through everything, through that repeated thought, through the interruption you didn't expect, through the face of a stranger, through the deep pull in your spirit that doesn't make sense to anyone else. But if you're waiting for perfect conditions to validate what your spirit already knows, you'll miss the now of God, and God only operates in now. He doesn't need time to fulfill his word. He needs you to agree with the moment he's speaking in. And that moment is always this one. This is why spiritual maturity isn't about knowing more, it's about being more aware. The ones who move in power are not those who try to force divine signs. They are those who are sensitive enough to feel them before they're visible. To trust the vibration, to sense the alignment, to move on the whisper, not just the confirmation, because by the time something becomes visible, it's already old in the spiritual realm. If you're always waiting for things to show up before you move, you are living behind the will of God, not inside it. God speaks now, God gives now, God moves now, and your job is to be present enough to receive now. You don't need to ask again. The message is already in motion. What you need is the sensitivity to recognize it, to discern that the delay you're feeling is not from God, it's from resistance in your own mind. It's the habit of overthinking, the addiction to proof, the fear of being wrong, and all of it is noise. Sacred things are heard in silence. You will not receive your next instruction while panicking. You will not catch your next revelation while trying to impress others with how spiritual you are. This is not performance. This is presence, and presence requires surrender. Not surrender to loss, but to the higher reality that God is already moving even if nothing in your life looks different yet. You have to learn how to trust the word that comes without evidence. You have to become comfortable with unconfirmed obedience. Because that is the space where miracles begin, that is where breakthrough is born, and it always starts in a moment of awareness where you say, God, I don't need to hear more, I need to believe more. That's when the voice inside becomes louder than the voices outside. That's when your steps become guided, even if you can't explain why. That's when clarity dawns in the middle of confusion, not because the situation changed, but because you changed in the situation. You became still, you tuned in, you finally made space for the message that's been waiting for your attention. The most powerful thing you can do today is get quiet enough to hear, not to hear more information, but to hear what your spirit has already been echoing for weeks. The answer is in your awareness, the clarity is in your attention, the instruction is in your stillness. Stop scrolling past the signs, stop rushing past the revelation, stop doubting what's been repeating itself in your heart. God is not hiding, he's highlighting, but only the still will see it, only the aware will hear it, only the present will move in it. So pause, breathe, get quiet, not just with your mouth, but with your soul, and listen, not for noise, but for knowing. It's already there. It's always been there. And the moment you become still enough to listen, you will realize that God's message was never waiting to be spoken. It was only waiting to be received. In the final hour, creation responds to your inner conviction. God is waiting on your decision. This is not just another moment passing in time. This is your final hour of decision, the sacred space where what you believe will determine what becomes. The clock is not ticking to scare you, it's ticking to wake you, because creation is not random. It responds, it listens, it mirrors, and in this final hour it is not responding to your words, your wishes, or even your desperation. It is responding to your inner conviction. The universe bends to your belief. God is not moved by your panic. He is moved by your position, not the one you show others, but the one you hold inside. Right now, heaven is watching not to judge you, but to reflect you. Creation is leaning in, listening to the sound of your inner conversation. What are you truly convinced of in this final hour? What are you assuming about who you are, about what is possible, about what you deserve? Because what you are assuming is what you are authorizing. Your life is not on hold. Your belief is, the blessing is not delayed. Your alignment is, you keep asking God to speak, to help, to intervene. But God is asking you to choose. To decide, to embody the reality you want before it shows up. That is how divine law works. It doesn't respond to appearance. It responds to assumption, and assumption is not about pretending. It's about living as if the outcome is already sealed. It's about stepping into the vibration of the answered prayer before the answer is visible. That's faith. That's the kind of faith that pleases God, not the kind that waits for signs, but the kind that becomes a sign. You must understand that your world is being shaped not by fate, but by frequency, not by what happens to you, but by what you consistently believe about what is happening. If you believe God is for you, then even the opposition becomes opportunity. If you believe the promise is real, then every delay becomes preparation. But if you believe that life is against you, that you're behind, that things never change, then creation must obey, not because God wills it, but because you do. You have been given the divine authority to command what you experience through what you persist in imagining. This is not magic. It is spiritual law. The inner world creates the outer world. Your assumption becomes your atmosphere. And right now, in this final hour, you are being asked to rise. Not later, not someday, but now. This is not a test of how much you want it. It is a test of how much you're willing to become the version of you who already has it. God does not wait for things to be perfect to move. He waits for you to step into the identity that matches the miracle. That identity is your vote, your spiritual signature, your yes to what heaven has already released. And the longer you hesitate, the longer creation pauses. Not because God is cruel, but because the universe cannot deliver to someone who still identifies as the person who lacks what they desire. You must become it first. You must speak it, walk in it, breathe in it, stand in it, before it manifests. That is the divine order of manifestation. This is why many pray and never see breakthrough, not because God didn't hear, but because they didn't shift. They prayed from the old identity. They asked for a future blessing while identifying as someone unworthy of receiving it now. And heaven cannot contradict the law. It will only reflect what you accept. So, what are you accepting today? Are you still tolerating thoughts of delay, feelings of fear, narratives of failure? Or are you deciding that enough is enough, that this is your hour, that you are no longer waiting for proof, you are becoming proof? Because the moment you believe without needing evidence, the moment you stand in the knowing that your God cannot lie, the moment you say yes with your inner posture, creation responds, things shift. Atmospheres align, people are moved, favor flows, not because you begged, but because you believed, because you dared to act like it was finished even while it looked unfinished. That is spiritual maturity. That is divine authority, and it belongs to you not tomorrow, not next season, but now. The only thing standing between you and the manifestation is your conviction, and conviction isn't loud, it's deep. It's not about screaming your affirmations. It's about becoming one with the identity they point to. You must feel the fulfillment in your body. You must see it in your mind. You must know it in your soul. Even when everything outside you screams the opposite, you must remain loyal to your inner vision. This is your final hour. Creation is waiting, not on your effort, but on your decision. The power is already within you. The door is already open in the spirit. The breakthrough is already set in motion. But the question remains, will you rise into it, or will you reason your way out of it? Will you talk yourself back into limitation, or will you dare to trust that God's word is greater than your worry? This is not the time to play small. This is not the moment to shrink back. This is the hour to stand tall in your divine inheritance, to declare the truth of your new identity, to move like the chosen one you are. Because heaven is not deciding whether to bless you. It is waiting for you to step into the blessing, and that step happens in consciousness long before it happens in circumstance. Your reality changes the moment your self-perception does. You are not waiting on God. God is waiting on your yes, and that yes is not a word. It is a state of being. It is the vibration of it is done. It is the inner shift that refuses to negotiate with fear any longer. It is the quiet power of walking in the unseen until the seen has no choice but to catch up. Right now, you are being watched, not by judgmental eyes, but by creative law, and that law is precise. It will multiply what you believe. It will mirror what you declare. It will expand what you feel, so feel boldly, declare intentionally, believe relentlessly, and watch as the outer world reconfigures to match the authority of your inner conviction. This is the hour where the spiritual becomes physical, where the invisible becomes visible, where the promise becomes proof, not because time finally arrived, but because you finally did. You showed up as the version of yourself who knows it's already done. And that version has always had heaven's full attention. You are not late. You are right on time for your miracle. Now decide, believe, assume, become, because in this final hour creation is listening.